Welcome to week 10 of Free Tendies Fantasy. We're doing the front office episode today. How's it going, Yanni?
What's up, man? It could be going better, but it's all right.
Valiant effort by the Bucks tonight. They almost took down the defending champion,
Almost
Kansas City Chiefs. We'll see how much longer their run lasts. But without further ado, let's get into the free agents for this week.
okay, guys. I didn't even have a lot to write here. There's really not a whole lot to say, but I did have four good free agents that I think should be on your roster, especially if they're in a position of need. The first one is Drake May. Drake May is currently top 10 in his first however many starts he's had in rushing yards. I think he's like number 6 or 7. He's up there with Michael Vick and Lamar Jackson for his rushing stats. I can't believe that. He has a beautiful floor, man, and that defense, it's not amazing, right? So he's going to have to pass it a little bit during the games, but his rushing upside is really what we're chasing here. I think he's an excellent QB2 to add to your rosters, especially with look, Dak's getting injured. Jared Goff has been up and down this year. You kind of lost Justin Fields with the weird shuffling going on there. Baker Mayfield's lost 2 receivers. Jordan Love keeps getting hurt. There's been enough up and down with quarterbacks this year that I actually think I'm totally comfortable rostering Drake May. I would actually be excited to do so. Tyler Goodson. This one is just look, I don't know, Dr. Injury Experts, Jesse Morris, fantasy doctor. He thought that Jonathan Taylor retweaked his high ankle in the game last week. He missed some key plays in the fourth quarter that made me think maybe he did. High ankles tend to take 4 to 6 months to totally clear, and Goodson was the guy that they showed they're comfortable giving a workload when he's out. I think as far as a high upside handcuff, between Jonathan Taylor's injury history and the workload he got when he went out, I think Goodson needs to be rostered in really almost every league. I would almost be rostering him over like I don't know, even like the Tyler Algier, Braylon Allen kind of guys, just because of the injury history. I think if you're running back needy, I think that's a really good stash. And then 2 tight ends for you. Taysom Hill. The Saints were making calls on running backs this week. It looks like they're going to try to add someone. I think they had Bart Scott in for a workout, or I believe it was Bart Scott that came in to work out for him. As of right now, Taysom Hill is their running back too, and he had a rushing touchdown last week. His usage has been really good. He's been getting plays. I absolutely hate that he's tight end eligible on Yahoo. I don't think he should be. I think you're kind of dirty if you use him there. I've never once played him at tight end on Yahoo, but for those that are morally inclined to do so, I think he's a great play. And then Mike Gesicki is the last one. He was my streamer this week. I have Kittle in 6 leagues. So when Kittle was out, that was who I plugged in. 24 and a half points and half PPR. And he's gone off every week that Higgins has not been in the lineup. He's been going off. All Junior just tore his ACL. So all is out of the mix, and that weird 3-headed monster they've had going there at tight end. Clearly, Gesicki has a level of comfort with Burrow, and clearly Burrow wants to use his tight ends. 2 touchdowns, had the nice, I think, like 46-yard touchdown this week. To me, Gesicki is another guy who absolutely needs to be added on your roster. I would not go and drop him even if you streamed him. Like I'm trying to package him and trade him to other teams right now. I think he's got that level of value, and I think he's had multiple tight end 1 weeks. I don't know. The phrase league winner gets thrown around too much. I did tell you guys that Kate Otten's a potential league winner 2 or 3 weeks ago. That one I stand on. This one, I don't know. To me, it's more of a fringe tight end one that I think you probably want on your roster.
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate the point that you made. You're garbage if you roll out Taysom Hill in your tight end spot.
Yep.
Yahoo, fix your platform. Taysom Hill's a
Yep.
quarterback, not a tight end. All right, we'll get into my free agents. First one is Cooper Rush. This is more of a super flex shout because if you're starting Cooper Rush in a 12 teams, 1 quarterback league, you're a sicko. But Dak's going to be out for a few weeks here. The Cowboys, I think we've learned this week, if you didn't already know, their defense sucks and they hate to run the ball. So they're going to need to throw. I think they're going to be down in a lot of games, throwing, trying to chase a lead. The weapons are still there, right? Like CeeDee Lamb is still there. That's really it. Jalen Tolbert's an okay player. Jake Ferguson's pretty good. I think that's how they want to attack teams. I wouldn't drop Fab on him, but if you're a roster, for example, that had been rolling with Andy Dalton for the past couple weeks and now he's lost his job to Bryce Young, maybe you get Cooper Rush to fill in. I'm definitely doing that on one roster. Next one is Elijah Moore. This is for all you people feeling pretty slotty out there. He has 11 targets, or he's averaged 11 targets in the past 2 weeks, and Jameis is slinging it for better or worse. So, I mean, a lot of these Browns guys are live now, right? Like Jerry Jeudy, I think he had 8 or 9 targets last week. Tillman got the touchdown. Elijah Moore, he didn't get the production. I think he had like 3 fantasy points, but the targets are there. It's just if you're kind of bought in on him being able to actually translate that to fantasy points, the combination of him and Jameis, right? I would have put Tillman or Judy on here, but it feels like they probably would have already been scooped up after last week. So Elijah Moore's the last guy there, but he's getting some work. I wouldn't drop Fab on him, but with all the wide receiver injuries, suspensions, trades, what have you, that are kind of destroying the back end of rosters, I don't hate him on the end of your bench. And the last one, from my second team, the Carolina Panthers, who got a win on Sunday. Cost me in the gambling show, but it was cool to see Bryce Young have a moment. That might be the highlight of his NFL career. But yeah, Jatavian Sanders, he had 8 points last week, 80 yards. He was the leading receiver for the Carolina Panthers. He's getting targets as the Panthers rookie, as a rookie on the Panthers, right? Who are a tanking team and they're going to want to see what their young guys can do. I forgot who their primary tight end was, but he got injured and Jatavian Sanders kind of filled in for that guy. And now like he's been playing well enough over the past couple weeks to like kind of continue to be in the mix here. I think over the last 4 weeks he had like 4 targets, 5 targets, 1 target, and like 8 targets or something, right? So he's like getting looks. It's just how much is that worth in a Panthers offense? I mean, Bryce being not completely ass is on the table. I think after last week, call me crazy. I think he looked okay in spots in that game against the Saints. Even his interception was a dot that the defender just kind of stole from his receiver's hands. He put it right on him. I wouldn't drop Fab on him at all, but just if you're a tight end roster, if you're a roster, I don't know, they maybe drafted Sam Laporta, for example, right? Like me, I'm a Sam Laporta bag holder in 2 leagues. It has not felt great. Maybe you feel like, maybe I need to have a second tight end on my roster just in case I don't hate it. You've probably noticed from all three of these guys here, no Fab this week. This is a stinky, stinky week for the free agents and buy low, sell highs. I think everyone's just been kind of digging through the trash heap from all the injuries this year. It just is what it is. On better weeks, we'll have more interesting convictions for you guys.
Yep. Yeah, God, what a plain looking slide. Not a whole lot to say, right? Yeah, Ted's totally right. It's just it was a really weird week when I looked around. You'll see on my buy lows list, I've really been aggressively buying low on some of these guys, trying to pick these losing teams. But for sell highs, I really only have two for you, and there's not even much to say about it. Chuba Hubbard, same thing. He's been on my list for 2 or 3 weeks now, but the same thing I keep telling you guys, do not just sell him for nothing. He has absolutely been a tremendous fantasy asset. He had another 2 touchdown week this week, I believe. I think he went for 22 and half PPR, something like that. They confirmed that Jonathan Brooks is making his season debut next week. So my thinking here is simply, if you can get someone to pay a high-end wide receiver 2 price tag for Chuba, I would probably rather offload the risk, cash out on the unrealized gains, if you want to call it that, right? You made a great pick. You took him around 11 or 12. You've probably won a bunch of games with him this year. If he's been plugged in your starting lineup as your 11th or 12th round pick and you're flexing him and you're getting 15 to 20 a game out of him, he has been a winning factor for you. He's been a tremendous player. I think my inclination would just be to say, great, I'm going to take those wins. I'm going to take it to the bank and I'm going to secure someone I know is not going to drop off for the playoff run. I saw someone do Chuba and Calvin Ridley for Terry McLaurin and Tyler Algier. If you're getting a Terry McLaurin caliber player that you probably know is not going anywhere and is a locked in high end producer, I saw Chuba move for Brian Thomas Jr. I know it doesn't feel great to give him up for someone like that, but that is someone who's not going to split their role by the end of the year. I think there's a good chance that Jonathan Brooks, at the minimum, eats into the red zone work enough that you start to see a drop off in Chuba, but do not sell him cheaply. I would just look to see what you can get. I would be shopping him around pretty aggressively right now. And then the last one is just Davante Adams. I don't expect to see weeks like this from Davante moving forward. To me, it looks like Garrett Wilson is still clearly the wide receiver one there. He's been one of the best wide receivers in fantasy the last 6 weeks. I think Davante got really fortunate. Now, he was getting behind cover. If Aaron hits that first pass to Davante Adams, he might have had like a 25 or 30-point week this week. He does look like he's still getting open. The route running still there. All of it's still there. I'm just worried about the passing volume in the offense. The fact that Garrett Wilson is still clearly a factor. Breece Hall has not been as much of a factor as he will be moving forward. And I just think, look, people saw Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers in full PPR have a plus 20 week, and half PPR was like 18.6. People see that, and I think he may have real market value. And I would probably just look. see what people might be willing to do, see if you could package him up with someone to tier up in a big way. If I could throw like Devontae with someone else and I can move into like a Kenneth Walker the third, I'm doing that all day. If I can get Devontae and someone else and I can grab like an Alvin Kamara, I'm doing that all day. If I can do Devontae plus another receiver, if you can do Devontae Adams plus like a Calvin Ridley tier guy and you can go get like a Debo Samuel, I'm doing that all day. So those are the kind of trades I'm looking to do. This is the time of the year where I want a tall roster, not a wide roster. We only have like 5 weeks left of the regular season. I think you need to be able to or be willing to take on more risk right now and trade some of that depth. And Devontae Adams and Chuba Hubbard are two guys I'm looking to do that with.
Yeah, totally agree. I guess on the Chuba thing, right? For sure, I co-sign on the sell high. I don't think I think Chuba has played well enough at this point, right, for the Carolina Panthers, where he is like the reason they have a chance to win games. He's by far their best offensive player. So I don't think that he hasn't played well enough to like deserve bell cow status, but I think that like I was mentioning earlier, this Panthers team, they're in such a bad place right now where I think they are just going to want to look at their younger guys, right? And Jonathan Brooks, I think he's going to look good behind that line. The Carolina Panthers don't do a lot of things well, but they have a great offensive line. If Jonathan Brooks is starting to get work and is the player that he was drafted as out of college, he could absolutely be a league winner. All right, I only have one sell high for you this week, and it is JSN, my champion of this week. I have one roster that is tanking. I think I was projected to lose by 20 points this week, and I started JSN and Zay Flowers, and they got me like 60 points. But yeah, it felt great, and he's coming off like the best possible game for a fantasy wide receiver. If you're a content watcher, right? If you're a fantasy content watcher, you're seeing all of the videos right now. This is this was the breakout game for JSN. Guys who were kind of pumping him in the off season weren't getting their returns back or finally like, see, I told you so, right? This is the time to strike. This is the time to strike when the hype is high. He's only gotten double digits in half PPR in 2 of 9 weeks this season. That's horrendous. I get that he's had a couple weeks where he gets like 10 targets or 11 targets or whatever, right? But not even that has translated to like these 10-point games or big weeks. A lot of it has just kind of been empty-ish until this kind of breakout game against the Rams. DK was out, and the targets happened to go his way. I don't like DK Metcalf as a player, but the fact of the matter is when he's in there, he is the primary guy the Seahawks want to pass the ball to, right? He's always been the target hog. He's the guy Geno looks to. He's been with the offense for longer. He's still the alpha on that team, for better or worse, right? Geno is bad. Geno's just not a good quarterback. If you watch that Rams Seahawks game, I think some of the good throws that he had to JSN were nice little like I don't know makeup for like what his game was. Like he single-handedly lost them the game. 3 picks, two in the end zone. One was a pick six. He's not a good quarterback, and they were playing the Rams, right? This is the team Juwan hung like 170 and 3 touchdowns on. So this is not like even the first wide receiver to have have a career game against these Rams. So I think it was kind of I think it was kind of a perfect storm here of all the variables going in favor of JSN. And I would sell him to a preseason truther. Look for those guys who are Ron Stewart content enjoyers. Look for those dudes who like just rip underdog fantasy content all day and have kind of been sold the JSN truth bomb all off season. I would sell him to those guys because I think those ones might see this as more of a breakout game versus I don't know, a meeting of circumstances that made this happen. I'm inclined to believe it was a meeting of circumstances and he will be like low wide receiver 3 for the rest of the year. Thoughts on that one, brother?
I think that's a part. I mean, I don't know about pretty high. I think I had a 20%, maybe a 30% roster exposure to JSN. So 2 or 3 rosters out of 10. I don't remember. And funny enough, I started him on 2 rosters this week that are basically dead in the water rosters and the exact same thing. I'm just protecting my manager rating on Yahoo at that point. That's all I'm hoping for, some wins there. And he won both of them for me. No, dude, I think that's perfect though. I think it's the exact combination that you hit on is exactly what you hunt, right? Preseason darling, really tremendous player in college, played at Ohio State, played with these hyped receivers. You have guys like Garrett Wilson that are, cheerleading him right while he's playing. And that's exactly who you want to sell him for. If you can combine him with someone, dude, and push your way up a tier. Like if you can do JSN plus someone, get a Devonta Smith or someone like that, I'm doing that in a second. Or tag him onto a wide receiver and try to go get someone like a Ramondre Stevenson, or again like a Kenneth Walker, that sort of guy. Yeah, dude, do it. Definitely do it.
Yep.
Okay, so my buy lows are going to look suspiciously similar to last week because I copy and pasted some of it because I'm right where I was last week. I know he had a bad game. I know he had the fumble, but this was a very unique game against the Bears and one of the hardest secondaries in the NFL to play against. Marvin Harrison Jr. went out there, had like 3 points for you. His value is likely as low as it'll ever be. I said that last week. It got a little lower this week. But his value is likely as low as it'll ever be. Draws if Sauce Gardner goes. I know he got a little banged up last week. He draws the Sauce Gardner matchup in what should be a low play count game against the Jets this week. After the bye, my little quote that I put on there, right? The Warren Buffett quote is, "Be bold when others are fearful." I am begging you to go out and buy Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm more than willing to look stupid about this. I have a 9-0 roster. I went and bought him on it. I paid very handsomely for him actually on that roster. I truly believe with the secondaries he's going against the last 6 weeks, he is facing bottom 10 secondaries and fantasy points per game given up. Maybe like there's a 12th ranked guy in there for the entire rest of the season after their bye. He has the Jets, he has a bye, so you have to endure 2 more weeks. I really, really love the idea of having Marvin Harrison Jr. on your roster for that last third of the season. Would I do it if I'm 500 or under 500? Because we had 9 games played. If I'm like 4-5, do I want to hinge next 2 weeks on Marvin Harrison? Maybe not. If you can afford to drop one of the next 2 weeks, you're confident enough doing that. I'm begging you to go out and buy him. I have no qualms whatsoever. I'm happy to do so. And a similar theme here. I am sending offers out like crazy on any injured stud receiver. So I have bought this week 2 shares of Mike Evans. I'm currently trying to acquire a Deebo Samuel share. AJ Brown looks like he might miss another week or two. DK Metcalf looks like he might miss another week or two. CD is questionable for this week. He's probably 50-50 to go this week. If you go next week, he's going to be with Cooper Rush for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Any of these rosters, if you see these guys have 1, 2, 3 wins and they think they might have a chance to turn it around, if you get them someone who can win now, send offers, man. I sent an insultingly low offer. I sent Deontay Johnson for Mike Evans thinking maybe the guy's stupid and he accepted it. I was like, all right, it's great. Thank you. I'm trying to buy, again, CeeDee Lamb's going to be a big one. Any of these stud receivers, man, these are force multipliers for the playoffs. The report came out this week. It looks like Mike Evans is going to come back the week after their bye. DK sounds 50-50 to face the Niners, but should be back the week after if he doesn't. Collins is back this week. You're probably not buying him. CD at most, you're going to have 2 to 3 weeks where he's injured. And even with Cooper Rush, he was productive enough. He's not going to be the same old CD. And Deebo has league-winning upside rest of the season without Ayuk there. And then some cheaper buy lows. Khalil Shakir. Is it Shakur or Shakir? Maybe
It's Shakir. I don't know how Tupac's brother Khalil
Okay.
made the slide.
Okay. All right. I was thinking Tupac. Nice. Look, I went and traded on Khalil Shakir last week. I got him 1-for-1 for Alexander Madison. If you can trade your running back 4 or 5 and you're a little thin and wide receiver and you can add Khalil for the stretch run here, he only had like an 8-point week last week and half PPR. I'm completely fine doing that. He's had, I believe, 36 points in half PPR since the Amari Cooper trade. So about 12 points a game, man. That's a really nice piece that if people get injured, you may be comfortable starting for the rest of the season. They have a nice schedule down the stretch. I'm looking to add Khalil actively. I'm happy I was able to do it in one roster. And then the last 2, these ones are actually just because I feel like their price is so good. The running backs for the Bucks have a really nice schedule end of season. Okay. And I feel like they've eaten into each other's value enough. I actually kind of sent out some offers on Rachaad White the last month. I'm sort of happy I did. I didn't trade him when I got buy low offers on Rachaad White. And I actually went and traded for Bucky Irving in a few leagues. I don't know how it's going to shake out. It's really annoying that one of them doesn't get all the work, but they've actually both been like high-end 3s, low-end 2s to high-end 2s for the last like month, even eating into each other's workload. Any game where they're going to have to pass, Rachaad White's going to have value. And clearly with Godwin out, Rachaad White is soaking up more of that target share. I'm actually totally comfortable buying on him, totally comfortable rolling with him into the playoffs. Again, these aren't guys that, you sell the farm for or anything, but when you look at a quality depth piece that if you have someone get injured week 15, 16, 17, and you need to start someone, you do not want to be starting. Oh God, who did I have to start this week on one roster with 4 injuries? I had to start Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby and a three-headed monster with ETN. He got 2.5 points, and I lost a week because of him. You don't want to get in that position in the playoffs. If you're a playoff-bound roster, you need to start thinking about these things and building a little bit of quality depth too. And by that, I just mean if you're giving up your wide receiver four, if you only have two startable running backs, you need to have a third one if you're going into the playoffs. I know I just said you want to build your roster taller, not wider, but you also want to balance your roster. You don't need five good receivers at this point in the year if you only have two good running backs. Be thinking about those things, and there's three cheaper guys I would be getting.
Yep, yep. All right, my buy lows. I only have two of them. I think it's funny. Yanni said it was an insulting offer because I'm buying Deontay Johnson. Listen, the public sentiment on his move to the Ravens is that his fantasy value is just going to be worse, right? He was in this weird spot in Carolina where he was one of the only competent players on the team, and Andy Dalton was just hammering him with targets. I think he had like a 30% target share or something like that. There were points during the season where he was ranked within the top 15 of ECR for wide receivers, so it felt really good at times to have him. I don't necessarily buy that it's going to be worse though on the Ravens. He's a great player in my opinion. I think Deontay is actually a really good player. I think he's a really crisp route runner. I've called him Walmart Brandon Ayuk before. So I really like the player, and he's going to a great team with a great quarterback, right? Like I look at the guys like Zay Flowers who have just like had career years this year, right? So the Ravens they will have games where they're not throwing a bunch, but I think you can kind of try and spot them. I think Deontay is going to get anywhere from the neighborhood of, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 targets a week. And I think that's worth a lot more on the Ravens, right? I think he's going to be a more consistent flex or wide receiver two max at this point, too. As a Deontay Johnson heavy bag owner, I've seen this personally, and I'm sure people who have him on your team will notice this, that when he was on the Panthers, there were weeks where you absolutely could not start him. It would be either Bryce Young is starting or it's a bad defensive matchup. And there were weeks where you just knew Deontay was going to be between like 1 to 3 points, and you just say, screw it, I can't even think about starting you. I think he's going to be more in the mix as a startable player on a weekly basis here on the Ravens. So I mean, he is sacrificing some target share for sure, going to Baltimore, but man, that offense looks good. I'm buying him, not for an aggressively high price. I would think more as like an add-on, right? Or like I would flip JSN for Deontay at this point because I like Deontay's role more in a better offense with a better quarterback. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then the next one is DJ Moore. This is another one that has not been a fun ride for fantasy managers. DJ Moore has been in the Twitter news this week. There was a play, I don't know if you've seen this, Yanni, where Caleb was scrambling around or whatever, and DJ Moore like walks off the field mid-play. So it has not been fun for fantasy managers. I think he has like 5 weeks or something in single digits. There's weird vibes going on. I think he might fucking hate Caleb. But here's the deal. He has a great rest of season schedule. Like I have heavy Bears bags on a lot of teams, and like I've been salivating at all that green on the upcoming schedule. So they're playing some very gettable defenses here, and he's averaging anywhere from 7 to 10 targets a game still. And he's just not producing with them, right? A lot of what the Bears football has been this year, unless they're playing like the Panthers where they can boat race the team, is Caleb is getting just he's a crash test dummy in the pocket. He's just getting mauled. And it's getting to the point where even when he has time in the pocket, he won't sit there. He like scrambles around, he immediately panics, and like these plays that are getting drawn up, whether or not they're good from Shane Waldron or just DOA, like as soon as Caleb freaks out, right? Like that, right? So with a couple of easier matchups coming up, if Caleb can kind of get better down the stretch, right, be more comfortable in the pocket, I think he's going to be coached up on that. Certainly not from Matt Eberflus, but from whatever offensive mind is in the Bears building. I think they're going to see that on tape, say, Caleb, you need to settle down a little bit, right? As long as he's there and able to deliver the ball, it's all there for DJ Moore. Still a great player. Could be a league winner, especially with that easy schedule down the stretch. I'm sure I am a pretty patient manager, right? But I'm sure there are DJ Moore managers that are sick of this guy, right? And you might be able to get him for insultingly cheap. Like maybe you could flip your JSN for a DJ Moore or something, right? Maybe you could flip a Deontay Johnson and maybe another piece. You might even be able to do just Deontay straight up for DJ Moore. Maybe someone like, I don't know,
Dobbs. Romeo Dobbs.
Dobbs, that would be insane. But yeah, if you could do
Someone
that, rip that in a second.
we might be at that point. I mean, if you wanted to be really bullish, depending on your evaluation of the Panthers backfield, I think you could easily you might even be able to get DJ Moore into piece for Hubbard. But that's, I mean, how bullish do you want to be? I don't know. That's up to you. But you could easily do a move like that. Um, it's hard to say.
Yeah,
It's weird, dude, because wide receiver is weird because it's so decimated this year. It's like, well, who are you moving where? But I love the idea of buying DJ Moore just because we know the upside's there.
yeah.
So
And I mean, right now, right? If you look at, I think there's a large contingent of fantasy managers that look at what their platform says about a player, right? Like I've poked around earlier this year. I was poking around for trades for Brandon Ayuk, right? And I think I sent a DJ Moore offer. Like I offered this guy, it was like DJ Moore and another piece for like BA and Jonathan Brooks, right? And the guy sends me a screenshot of like the Yahoo like player profile. And it said, why are you off? Why would I give you Brandon Ayuk for like a low wide receiver three, right? Because that's what the Yahoo thing said. Like Yahoo's valuing him as a low end three now, or that's what they're telling people. Like you might be able to buy him like a low end three. That's certainly not where I have him. I think ECR has him within like the top 25 wide receivers, right? And even then, like if Caleb starts playing like the player he was drafted to be, and this Bears offense looks good down the stretch, watch out because he's still getting targeted. It's not like he's not getting looked at. It's just nothing has materialized from it yet. But that's going to do it for us this week. Kind of a short one, but that's fine for a Monday night. Not a great week for free agents. I think me and Jan are going to have to reconvene on this episode because I think the trade deadline is coming up soon in a lot of leagues. We want to get like one last episode for front office out there, but I think if we do that, we do like just a giant trade episode. How does that sound, bud? You think that's a good idea?
yes, something like that. And for this week, guys, please, like, I'm very curious. Let us know if you bought on some of these receivers that are way too cheap right now. I want to know if someone goes and wins a championship with a Debo Samuel or with an AJ Brown or a DK Metcalf or a Marvin Harrison Jr. I'd love to know if you get in those last minute trades. I wonder if that's going to swing leagues this year. Because there are a lot of teams that are decimated right now, dude. There are a lot of teams that need win now, and they're sitting there going, "Well, that just ended my season." I would love to know what comes of this week, and me and Ted will figure out something to give you next week.
Yep, yep. And we will catch you on Thursday for the head coach episode.
Thank you.